I'm really happy to have Brian here.
Yeah.
Brian and I have spent a lot of years together, as you've well understood thus far in this interview. He's one of the few that actually really listened.
Welcome, everybody, to Born Broke with Michael Hofferth. This time I called him Michael instead of Mike. And today we have Brian Dean Gross in the studio today.
Hey.
Round of applause.
Brian Gross.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Brian, we brought you on the show, my man. You probably know why.
Yes.
Do you know
Happy
why?
to be here.
Yeah?
No, tell me why I'm here.
I don't know.
Talk about me.
You're here to inspire and inspire and hopefully give some constructive criticism and your story to the people watching at home. So make sure, when you really want to drive home a point, you want to talk to your audience on that camera there, okay?
Yeah.
All right.
And everybody else canceled, so.
I was in the building, so it worked out.
We were going to go without anybody today.
Yeah.
And
It's like on my way out.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, okay, can you stop it?
But anyway,
Yeah.
Brian's been a great friend, almost like a family member. He's been instrumental in actually following some of the tips and things we've been talking about through episodes, and we will talk about through episodes. So he's here today to kind of share his story, and let's see if you enjoy it or not. Like when you like it, comment when you comment, tell us, give us some feedback. But Brian, let's start you off. Like, where are you from originally? Where'd you grow up?
Southern California, Gore Hills, California, born and raised. That's it.
Gore Hills. Okay,
Gore Hills,
great.
yeah.
Gore Hills, nice place. I like that place.
Yeah, yeah.
I actually live there right now,
do.
currently. Yeah,
You do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
LA County, but
it's LA County.
I won't
Yeah.
hold it against you guys.
Well, now I'm in Thousand Oaks, so now I'm in
See,
Ventura.
he's in
Okay,
Ventura County now.
Brian's upgraded, clearly. 805, shout out.
So, at the end of it, let's talk about your childhood and how you grew up. Do you have any brothers, sisters?
I do. I have one brother. Great childhood. You
Yeah?
know, grew up in Agora and it was awesome. And went to San Diego for college for a couple years, then transferred to Cal Lutheran.
Wow.
Keep playing water polo.
Oh, you're an athlete.
I'm an athlete.
He was a collegiate athlete here,
He's
George.
still fit, too, by the way.
Nah,
Well, that's with you athletes, collegiate athletes, you're still fit.
Yeah.
I took the other route.
We're not going to go there. Continue the interview.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey. So Cal Lu played water polo,
Yep.
graduated with a degree in
Business.
business.
Yeah,
Oh,
Business
gotcha.
and a minor in economics.
I didn't even know that. That's fantastic. All right. Does that serve you well in today?
I guess, yeah.
Yeah,
you know?
you use things that you learned, or
Sure, yeah.
okay.
No, yeah.
Would you recommend business as a major?
I would. I feel like it was the best overall, right? Like
okay.
I started actually with as a bio major. I was going to be a vet I interned at a vet hospital after high school. It was okay. It wasn't what I thought it would be, I guess.
Sure.
And you're carrying dogs in bags into the freezer and you're like, I don't know if I want to do this forever.
Right.
That was it for me. Switched to television studies in San Diego, and then transferred again to business,
Okay.
and that's where I ended up.
That's where you ended up. And then after college,
So we met. So X Factor
was that your first job?
was my first job.
No kidding.
Well, I interned as a jib tech,
Okay.
while I was in college.
What is a jib tech?
So
People
it's-
at home probably
it's a
don't
type
know
of
what a jib-
camera for TV shows. It's the one on a big crane.
Okay.
So one of my dad's buddies is a jib operator, and I interned for him for almost a year, or probably about a summer, I would say, on America's Got Talent.
Oh wow.
And from there, the EAC at the time started a new show, X Factor, where
okay.
he was like, oh, you should go PA. And I was like, okay. So
What's PA mean?
Production assistant. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very lucrative, I heard.
Yeah.
great.
What's that day rate,
Yeah,
roughly?
yeah.
Give me a range.
It's not much different than it was, was it 2011? So
Okay.
12 years ago.
12 years ago.
He
where we
didn't
met.
answer the question on the day rate. But that's okay.
where
That means it's really
Not
low,
much.
folks.
Yeah. It was not much.
It's where we met. Yeah.
Yeah.
12 years ago we met. You were just out of college. I didn't realize that. You started as a
So
production
actually,
assistant.
we were on the road
Okay.
on X Factor, and I flew back on one of the cities to walk because I hadn't, we started in
walk what?
in college. I hadn't graduated yet.
Oh, okay.
I finished in the fall because I stayed one more semester to play one more season. Because I transferred in, I had one more extra season, so I stayed. Oh. And then we started X Factor probably beginning of the year, January, February.
Right.
And then I think we were in Denver. I flew back and then walked in May just to graduate. And
Okay.
then came back on the road.
Nice.
So
Nice.
yeah, so I was a little baby back then.
little baby back then. There you go.
You came out early.
You came.
As they
Started
say.
working early.
You jumped into one of the biggest
It was
productions.
brutal.
Yeah.
That was a brutal
so
one.
you really put your feet to the
battle.
fire. I think
Every day
yeah.
was battle. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And then from X Factor, you went to
joined you guys. Yeah.
joined us where?
Your production company.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
At Combined Media.
Yep.
So you came to Combined Media.
Yeah.
And how many years did you?
I think we were 3 years.
You were there
there.
3?
Yeah.
3.
And then America's Got Talent after that.
Then America's Got Talent after that.
For 4 years, I think I was there. 3 or 4 years. Yeah.
Okay.
And that kind of leads us to where current situation.
Current situation. But
Yeah,
let's go back a little bit, right? Let's go back. What I remember in the X Factor days when I think I first met you, didn't know much about you, but I think back then, and correct me if I'm wrong, you were having some credit challenges.
Was I?
Credit score challenges.
Yes, I did. You're right.
Right?
I did. I forget so easily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now that he's crushing it.
Yeah. No. Yeah. No.
Spoiler alert.
No, I just forget how it seemed so long ago. Yeah, we had a couple of issues back in the day of some unpaid stuff, and I definitely had to work on it for a while.
Right.
But you just over time, you just kind of learn the ways of how to use money differently.
But what got you? Let's really dig into that, right? So you had some credit issues.
Yeah.
You had some unpaid stuff. You said.
Yeah.
Can you be more specific in some unpaid stuff?
Well, I didn't know I had the unpaid stuff. We'll leave it at that. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was some situations, and I didn't know I had it.
Gotcha.
And then, luckily, back then I didn't have a lot, so
Okay.
it wasn't crazy.
Right. How did you realize that how did it surface and you realized you had this unpaid stuff that was hurting your credit?
Well,
Did you get something in the mail? What tipped you off?
I probably was trying to get a car or something.
Oh,
But
okay. That was actually something we talk about.
yeah, so we just chiseled away at it, and that's all it was. It was just over a few years, just kept chiseling away. And
What's that chisel away mean? For people at home, what does that mean? You just started making the payments, or
yeah, again, back then I was still I was sharing rent with my family, so it wasn't too expensive back. It's also 12 years ago, so it wasn't as expensive as it is now.
Sure.
And just over time, I think it took about 3 or 4 years, and got everything down that I needed to be down. And
so, what would you say? Would you say making those payments? How did you turn the credit around? You started making payments on time. Did you do a settlement?
Well, basically,
did you do a settlement,
there was collections.
Oh,
and I would call and I'd say, "Hey, I want to get out of this. What
Okay.
do we need to do?" So we set up payment things, and it seems so long ago, but yeah, you would make payments on it, and over time, it just it'd go away.
so I'm gonna guess that you were religious. Once you figured it out, then you called, asked how to rectify the situation,
Yeah.
and correct me again if I'm wrong, but you started making payments on time consistently.
Yeah.
And over time, that started to build your credit up,
Yep.
right? And then eventually, I would imagine you probably paid that off,
Yeah,
and you got rid of that debt.
yeah.
and
Again,
you
it
were able to
wasn't
move forward.
crazy amounts
Sure.
because I was only 22 years old. I mean, he didn't have too much.
Well, this is our viewers,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Our viewers there's
Yeah.
probably a range of viewers. We talk about this,
Yeah.
probably 14 to 30 thereabouts,
Yeah.
right? We're going to guess.
Yeah.
But it's talking to people that are, think about yourself when you were 14 or 15 or 16
Yeah.
or like you just said 22, right?
Yeah.
They need to understand the ramifications of not paying your
payments.
bills,
Yeah.
right? Then it goes into a collection. Right.
Mm-hmm.
A collection is when they start reaching out to you because they want their money back, basically, for all those that don't really understand that. Then you have to take action. And Brian took action. He started to make those payments on time for the amounts. Did you, I wasn't clear. Did you negotiate the debt down, or did you just take the debt at face value?
So with certain things, I took face value that weren't that big.
Okay.
I do know with my college, which I worked with my dad with, we were able to negotiate that one down eventually.
Okay,
after so long, you can negotiate and say, here's a cash amount. Can we get this down? And then,
Would you recommend that?
yeah, if you have the cash, yeah, we eventually were able to save enough to do it that way.
Perfect.
And you do have to, they're tough. It's not just oh yeah, sure. It's you have to go back and forth and negotiate with them. But most of the time, they just want money. So it's as long as you have here's cash. Can we bring this down? Sure, and then we're done.
Perfect. Yeah, I think that's a good lesson too for people at home, that might be running from their debt or running from collections, which could seem intimidating, right? It could be very intimidating.
It's easy to run away for sure. Because they're calling you and you're like, I just don't want to deal with it. But I guess the advice I would have is take it head on, you know, like it's a challenge.
Right.
It's like, okay, if you can, how do we make this work?
Right.
That's kind of story of my life. I feel like it's just like, okay, what do we need to do to make this work?
Right.
Right. It's like everything there's always a way. As long as, you know, you have a job and you can, you know, you're a hustler and you can figure it out, but
Right.
it's always a way.
Well, that's great. That's great. So let's put that beside us, right? You dug yourself out of debt. Your credit rating was advanced.
Yeah.
It was higher
Yeah.
at that point,
Yeah.
right? And then that was during X Factor. How many years you said 2 or 3 it took you?
To pay it off?
Yeah.
Yeah. About, I would say 3. Let's say
3?
Yeah. Yeah.
3?
Yeah.
Perfect. And then you're still living at home, saving money,
Yep.
splitting rent,
Yep.
doing the thing.
Yep.
Great. Making
Yep.
that sacrifice.
Yep.
Okay.
And then,
Taking care of your family the best you could.
Yep,
Which is
exactly.
awesome. Noble guy.
yeah. And then I think, I don't know if we're up to now a certain point where you come in, it was very vital. I think I was 25. They had raised the rent.
Right.
We had
I remember
3-bedroom
this.
townhome or 3-bedroom called apartment.
Okay.
And I remember telling you, I was like, dude, they're raising our rents. Like it's for a 3-bedroom, it's a lot, you know? And I told you how much and you were like, you should just go buy a place for that price. And I was like, oh, at that age, I was like, I never even thought about that. And sure enough, you know, I do a lot of research and you know me, we're very similar that way.
Sure.
I will research the shit out of everything until I like, okay, this makes sense. Right. So, you know, got a good loan and, you know, okay, back then, I don't know if it still is, but first time, you know, homeowners, you only have to put down 3%. Found a condo that, you know, worked for us and, you know, it was $450 for the condo, but it was like 3% down was like $17,000.
Perfect.
You know, so I think I borrowed some money from my brother, just like a little bit. It's like a couple thousand just to get it, and then you just, you know, again, paid him back once I was in.
Right.
But you just got to get in. You know, that was the hardest part.
But take us back a few steps, right?
Okay.
Just because, again, you know, it's
Yeah,
all
yeah.
about making sure people understand, you know, at home. So I don't mean to interrupt. I just want to make sure
please.
people are
To
understanding.
remind me, because
So-
it's been so long.
Ultimately, you're saying you put down 3%, right? You qualified for the loan, obviously. So in the end, was now this mortgage comparable to what the rent was going to be?
It was.
It
A
was.
little bit more.
Yeah.
But you know,
But you own.
it, right?
You're owning.
It's just, yeah, we've talked about this. It's taking money out of one pocket and putting in the other.
Yes.
Which is, you know, one of the greatest lessons I feel like I've learned from you.
Right.
But you know, it's yeah, and since that point, it's been awesome.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So ultimately, I do remember this conversation. I remember you coming into my office and saying, "Hey, man, you're kind of bummed out. You're like, look, they're going to raise our rent again. It's getting pretty expensive. I think if I'm not mistaken, I think I asked you what's the rent. And that's at the point where I said you need to buy. And then I said, come into my office tomorrow.
Yeah.
And let's talk to a mortgage broker.
Yeah.
And
That's
we got
right.
a mortgage
That's
broker
right.
on.
I did it in your office. I forgot about that.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I put him on speakerphone. I do remember. I remember it very vividly. I remember he was trying to get you. He was trying to bait you and saying,
You can approve for more.
"Yep,
Yeah.
that's exactly right." He was baiting you because I remember I let you do the talking. I said I wasn't going to do any talking. Right.
yeah.
I just wanted to listen. And I think he was saying, "Hey, I can get you qualified for $1.5 million." Blah blah blah. And I think at the moment I was just shaking my head no.
Yeah,
and when
yeah.
we got off the phone, I explained why.
Yeah.
Why I explained to him is you don't want to overextend yourself.
Yeah.
It gets really easy to get excited about something and say, "Oh, I can qualify for $2 million, or I can qualify for $1.5 million," but you can really only afford $500,000.
Yeah.
Right. So you got to be really careful about that. And that's, I believe what you did, right? I think he did say he could get you almost $1.5 million.
Did he?
I think
that seems a
inside
lot.
but for you, I think
Yeah.
I panicked.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
was like, oh no, we don't
Yeah,
need
yeah.
$1.5 million,
Yeah.
you know? So,
So at that point, I was on AGT. So we
That's
were,
right.
you know, making decent money and you know,
making decent money, you had the tax
Yeah.
returns to show, to qualify,
Yeah.
all that good
so
stuff.
it worked out. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, like Brian had said, he put down 3%. Always go back and check and do your research, like Brian said. Do your research on what options exist for you, right? It could be, they could tell you 20% is X, 15% is Y. Oh, you're a first home buyer, 3% is fantastic. But again, much like anything, you need to know what comes along with that. You know, you need to know what your house insurance is, all the things that come, whatever the maintenance is. Like Brian, you talked about a condo, right? So in a condo situation, you pay what's called an HOA, a homeowners association, which takes care of near everything on the outside of the structure, right? And then also some stuff inside, which I think you can
They
actually
did,
talk?
yeah. We like I think it was my second year in there, and the floor started getting really hot in certain areas. We're like, why is the floor? It doesn't make any sense. Why would it's a condo? Why is the heaters above and everything? And it ended up being like a water line underneath the slab had busted, but the HOA they had to rip up all the floors and concrete. You know, it was concrete, so they had to jackhammer it. But we fought, and they were able to. They basically covered the whole expense and refloored the house.
So you didn't have to pay
No,
anything.
Mm-mm.
HOA covered it.
It worked out in that
Why?
instance
Why'd they cover it? Why did they end up covering it in the end?
because it was underneath the building.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was like in the wall or it's in the
wall.
floor.
Yeah.
It
Common
wasn't.
area.
Yeah.
Yep.
Correct.
It wasn't just cosmetic. It was like the actual
Right.
foundation of the building, which is under the HOA.
That's fantastic.
Worked out
So
really
that
well.
works good. So like
Yeah.
from a maintenance standpoint, that is. But if you're buying a standalone structure like a house, you're on the hook for that.
Yeah,
So at the end of the day, if
Yeah,
you
yeah.
would have found those floors being hot and you were in a standalone home
Yeah.
that doesn't have an HOA that's for the maintenance on the outside or a common area, you would be on the hook for that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, do your research like we talk about often and we'll talk about often. Do your research, ask questions a lot, right? Brian's had huge success. And then from there, you had to condo for how long?
3 years.
3 years?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
3 years. At this point, let's see, we had started Base Camp. So
What's Basecamp?
it's our rental company. It's our business. That
Basecamp is
yeah.
Basecamp Supply Company is currently who we're sponsored by. This is Basecamp Studios here.
Yep.
Obviously, I wear the logo often. You'll
Yeah,
see
yeah.
George in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a company that we started. Yeah, Basecamp Supply Company. 3 partners. Brian's one of them.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
we
go on.
started this in, I remember because I walked into your office. It was 2019. 2019? Might have been 2018 at this point.
2018, yep.
2018. I walked into your office and I was like, hey, like, I was planning on getting engaged the following year and I knew that I wanted something different, being married and family and all that stuff. And I knew that takes time. So I was thinking pretty far ahead when I walked into your office. I was like, hey, I know we talked about this company. If we're going to do it, like this is the time because it's only going to get harder after this because I knew it was going to be fast at this point. So I walked in, you're like, okay. So I think I said, I'm done here at AGT. You're like, give me a few more months.
Yeah.
You wanted me there a little bit longer, so I stayed for a little bit longer. And then, let's see, I got engaged in February 2019. And then I think I left, I want to say March. Right? 2019.
Yeah. So ultimately what happened is what Brian said. He came in the office, said he wanted to change a life. He wanted to have a family and start a family. With that comes responsibility. Time management gets a little bit more difficult. I said I needed a couple more months for twofold.
Yeah.
First off, to figure out how we're going to fund it. And second off,
Yeah.
who's going to replace you?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I'm just not going to replace you
Yeah,
with
yeah.
anyone. But ultimately, you had come to me a year prior and
Yeah.
wanted to do that.
Yeah, yeah.
And you gave me an extra year.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, you'd given me an extra year, which was fantastic. Look, when you find valuable people in your life, you don't lose them. Like all of this around me, and because it's all people that are like family, right? You keep the good ones close. So when he said he wanted to leave, first thing that goes in my head, you're going to go off and work for somebody else and do your thing. And I was like, so when you opted to run or like take the helm of Base
Start
Camp,
this,
I'm like,
yeah.
yeah, go for it. Let's do it.
Yeah. And it was one of those things as, coming from a family of business people, let's say, right?
Sure.
I knew that's what I wanted, and I knew this was an opportunity, and it was like, okay, well, this the puzzle pieces are fitting together at that time,
Right.
and it worked out. I feel like it's been good, and it's something that you think about. I feel like I thought about it early in my life. That I was like, okay, I knew what I wanted,
Right.
and I just needed a vessel to get there. And then we met, and it's always kind of flown nicely together, our lives and all that stuff. But it's been great. It's allowed me the life that I want to live.
It's giving you freedom.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. It's there's the rat race, right? The 9 to 5 and, always dealing with all that. And don't get me wrong. This is hard. It's not easy, but it's different when you're basically reliant on just you, and your partners and stuff like that versus like you're working for somebody else and you're making somebody else more money. If you work harder, it's like you don't get anything out of it. When you start this kind of stuff, it's like the harder you work, as long as you do it right, you'll see the progress and you see the success, and, and success, when I think of success, it's not so much even financial, you know, it's more just like the life, right? Okay. That's why I feel like with this company, I don't know if I'm jumping ahead, but like this.
No, you're great.
Yeah. This company, I feel like, or even me personally, it's like, I feel very successful, and I'm not rich. Like, I don't have a lot of money. It's like, it's just because I get to go home when I need to, you know, I get to come to work. I enjoy going to work. I enjoy working with everyone here, and
You're mentally rich.
mentally, I've hit everything I wanted, right? Like, I have the family now, and I have my house, my cars, this, and what else
So
could
you
I
are.
want?
So you are rich.
I'm successful, you know.
You're
That's what I
successful.
feel like. I don't need anything else.
You don't have a boat or anything?
I don't have a boat.
All right, that's smart.
Yeah, no boats, no. Yeah,
Smart
No.
man.
No.
I mean,
yeah.
that there's something to be said for that, right? Look, success is measured in all different ways, right? It doesn't have to be financial success necessarily. It can be freedom.
Yeah.
It can be family. It can be friends. It can be whatever you want it to be, right? Everybody has a different success, right? And I would say you're rich in your own way. I mean, are you a homeowner?
Yeah.
In Southern California?
Yeah, right. I know.
There you go.
It's a big deal
Not
these
not
days.
not
Yeah.
not
No.
an easy feat.
No, and it's you know, a lot of it is just luck. Not a lot of it. A lot of it's okay. Well, yeah, a lot of it's luck and timing.
Yeah.
But it's also, again, research. I research a lot, and it's like and being able to make decisions, I think, is a big one. I kind of pride myself in being able to make decisions fast if I need to.
To make decisions like pull triggers.
Financial decisions if I need to.
Gotcha.
Yeah. You know, not super fast, but doing the research and then knowing when the time is right, go for it.
Do you have a budget?
like a home budget?
Yeah. Do you have a personal budget? Do you know where you are?
I do. Yeah. I mean, I'm a little loose with it, but I track. I mean, literally today I was I'm making an Excel of like all the stuff and seeing where I can save. You know, it's just a daily thing. How can I save my money? You know,
So you have a budget.
I do. Yeah.
You pay attention to it.
I do pay attention.
You don't
to it.
just spend
No,
money.
no. I check the bank every day. I'm checking, make sure there's not any weird charges and making sure, you know. But yeah, save the budget. I know where every money's spent. You know,
Well,
and
there you
every
go.
dollar spent. I guess that counts. You know.
Is that important?
Oh yeah.
Does it help you?
Yeah.
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 What if you
100%.
didn't have it? Would you know where you are?
No. Yeah. No, I mean, I think being able to track money is a life lesson that, you know, it's got to be the most important thing to have any kind of financial freedom.
Who taught you?
You did. See? Yeah.
Good answer.
Wondering why he brought me here, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
That's what we were
Brian.
telling him before
Yeah,
the
I-
show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm really happy to have Brian here.
Yeah.
Brian and I have spent a lot of years together, as you've well understood thus far in this interview. He's one of the few that actually really listened and enacted, did the research, and actually acted on things that I would put out there. Basically, I was tossing the ball up for you to hit.
Yeah.
Right. I didn't force you to do anything. I just suggested things and said I would help where I could. And we bang ideas all the time.
All the
right.
time, yeah.
And I think that's really important. You know, as you find close friends or family members or mentors, you know, I think the importance of listening is really a big thing, right? A lot of people I come across don't take the time to listen, and it does get to me, but it doesn't get to me in a manner where I can't function. But I feel bad for them because I think sometimes without listening, you lose a lot of information, you lose a lot of opportunity, right? And you know, I'm going to take us back a minute, because people at home, we've talked about a condo.
Yeah.
So are you still in that condo?
No. So 2019. So 2019 was a big year. So I got married in August.
Wow. Okay.
And then, short engagement. And then I was like, you know, let's look for a house. You know, why not? It's a good time. Market's good. I had some value in the condo at this point.
So
I had about $100,000 in the condo.
I was just going to ask you,
Yeah.
did you have a ton of money in the bank, or
No,
you had
no
value
money
in
in the
your
bank,
condo?
but I had value in the condo.
So you had equity.
I had equity.
Okay.
Yep.
About 100,000 in equity.
Yep. And
So
I knew.
equity basically is when your property or your asset increases in value from what you paid for it, right? So I'm going to, like, for instance, if you paid, I don't know what you paid for it, but let's say you paid 500,000 for it. Now he's looking down the barrel of it worth 600,000. He's then, as he said earlier, taking money out of one pocket and putting it in another, which is something I've always said, right? So he's paying himself to live rather than renting, right? So at a certain point, you take this money out, you're paying yourself, even though the bank owns the house because they have a mortgage on it, right? You're paying that mortgage off. So you're paying what you owe the bank down every month, right? So as you pay the bank down, that increases equity as well, increases your value. So
The equity is yours.
Correct. It's yours. And
That's the
you can
beauty.
do so many things with it, right? As Brian learned.
Mm-hmm.
You can borrow against it. You can leverage it. You can sell it and take it out and put it somewhere else. So with that, you have 100,000 in equity approximately. And what happened? You're looking for a house now.
Looking for a house.
You've been married.
Been
You
married.
got married.
So we knew we were, looking for something bigger with more bedrooms for kids and stuff.
Sure.
Looked, it didn't take us that long to find something because this is also 2019. So there was a lot more real estate available. And,
Sure.
it wasn't as competitive. Things were sitting for months and it was like, okay, you can get better deals on stuff the longer they sit. So we found a great house, fixer upper for sure.
Nice. Smart.
I think we paid $649 for it, but it needed to work. So
would you recommend something that needs work, or would you recommend buying something that's completely?
depends on your lifestyle, where you are in your life, I would say. Like,
Yeah.
I think like the next one, I'm like, now with kids, I'm like, that's a lot. It was like you're living, it depends if you want to live in it or you can afford to do it while living somewhere else. Like we had to sell ours to get this one. So there was no in between. It was like, we were living in it.
Sure.
And we did a lot of it ourselves. At least we did a lot of the demo ourselves and you were there.
I did some demo
you did
with
some
him.
demo with us. Yep. Demoed the whole
Why
bathroom.
didn't I get a phone call? I love that.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I should have called you.
Now we know. If you're at home and you need help with demo,
If you're local, I'm not flying to Texas or Florida.
Yeah,
or
yeah,
anything.
yeah.
I bet you will if they send a Learjet for
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
No.
Oh, okay.
Um,
I'll go then.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is now, but we were able to only put down 10%
Okay.
for the house. I don't know if it's changed now or what the ruling or what depends on the loan, I guess, what kind of loan you get. So that's 65. Let's say we paid 650 for it.
Sure.
Put down 65,000.
Okay.
Payment was we were still able to do, good interest rates. We were able to afford it. Save the rest of the cash. Use some of it for the demo or for the renovations.
Yep.
Right? New floors, it wasn't major, new floors, some appliances and stuff like that. We kept a lot of like the kitchen. We didn't touch some of the bathroom. We didn't touch the other bathroom because we were going to do a little bit over time. We just needed to get it nice and livable and, and then we saved the rest, that was the beauty of equity.
Right.
All of a sudden now we have, 20, 30,000 saved and we bought a house.
So you bought a house. You put a down payment on it for about 65. We're using round numbers,
Yeah,
close
yeah.
approximate numbers.
Yeah.
So you got out of it with like 100.
Mm-hmm.
You used 65 as a down payment.
Mm-hmm.
That left you 35.
Mm-hmm. Say we used 20 on.
You used 20 on renovations and
Yeah.
got it where you wanted because you
Yeah.
bought a fixer upper.
Mhm.
You put a little bit in the bank.
Yeah.
Everyone's happy.
And that's now allowed us to.
Do you have equity in it now, or is it
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
perfect?
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. We bought it at a good time.
That's great.
2019.
That's
and then also, 2020 hit and we had COVID and luckily we were home. I was like, oh man, I'm so glad we were home a lot. So I'm glad that we got it and we were just able to work on it slowly just for being home.
Sure.
And we still, it's not done. We've been there for almost 4 years now. And it's like, we're still doing 1 or 2 projects a year.
You'll never be done.
No, I know. And I've learned that. I was like, it's like the 405. Once one thing's done, they go back.
Once
around
you're a
and do it again.
homeowner, that's one
Yeah,
thing you
yeah.
need to be prepared for. When you're
Yeah.
a homeowner, you'll never be
No.
finished.
No.
You'll always be working on your house.
But,
so be prepared for that too.
Yeah, but it's also nice because that means, you're constantly doing something and you're in putting money into the house is not a bad investment.
No.
It's one of the better investments you can do.
Sure.
There's not many places you can put a small amount of money in and increase it that fast.
Correct.
I would say,
Yeah.
or at least not lose it.
Yeah.
Like you're putting, if you put solar panels on, you're increasing your value. It costs you money, but you're also gaining it in your equity. You redo a kitchen, you're spending 10, 20,000 or whatever it is, even 5,000, but your value is going to go up like crazy.
Sure. You need to be careful with that stuff. You need to be smart, right? I don't want anybody to go out and think that they can just throw a bunch of money into a room and then decide that you're going to get that money fully back.
Yeah.
And, if you can overpay. So you still need to do your research and understand your market and understand value. But like Brian said, it's not a bad thing because you're investing in your asset, right? Now, this is a tangible asset. I always say tangible because there's other assets, and there are other ways to make money that aren't as tangible. Real estate, I think, statistically makes the most millionaires out of people on this planet, I believe. You'd want to fact check that, of course, but I believe that's the fastest way to a millionaire. Now, what would you say? Were you scared when you jumped in to buy the condo, or did you feel pretty confident at that point?
I feel pretty confident. I feel like because I understood the numbers.
You did the research.
Yeah, you just I knew where there wasn't anything shocking to it. It was like,
Right.
hey, well, here's what we're paying this much in rent already.
Right.
Now I basically it's a big chunk to put down, and that was basically everything I had minus some.
Sure.
You know, and,
Well, you borrowed some from
and
your
I
brother.
borrowed some, yeah, and then but I knew that in the long run this was the move,
Right.
you know, and luckily it worked out.
Sure.
It allowed us to
Yeah.
live in the house we're in now.
It can go upside down. Not very often. You can go upside down if you
Yeah.
overpay for a property. You can put yourself in a pickle, right? So you want to do research, and a lot of times, what I do is you got to look at your market, right? Look at your market, and don't look at the house and be emotional about it necessarily. Don't get emotional about things, right? What you want to do, in my opinion, if you don't want to lose, is look at the price per square footage, right? Look at your market, see what your price per square footage spread is, right? And if you're going to buy at the low end of that spread, there's a pretty good chance you're making a good investment, right? So like, let's say your spread $650 to $1,000 a square foot, right? Southern California, basically. If you're finding houses that are 600, 635, 650, even creeping up to 700, if it goes all the way to 1,000, you're going to be pretty good regardless of what you're doing, right? You're not probably going to lose money. But if you're buying because you're emotional and you're looking at a property that's 1,000 a square foot, that property could flip upside down and you could be stuck with it for a long time or have to take a loss. Because if the market is really averaging 650 or 7, you've paid 1,000, you're going to have a perfect buyer or a buyer that falls in love like you did to get that 1,000 back. So be careful and cognizant of that if you're going to jump into, home buying.
Yeah.
So you've got a nice house, you have a family, you've gone from a condo, let's even back it up. So you've gone from bad credit and debt that you didn't know you had, climbed your way out of it, bought a condo, became a partner in a business, bought a house, had a family, and here we are today in Basecamp Studios.
Yeah.
I will say Basecamp does sponsor the show, but it's Basecamp Studios. There's all kinds of offshoots from the rental company once you start. And I'll let Brian talk about it, but once you start a company and you have, a platform and a freedom that's moving in the right direction, and don't get me wrong, starting a company is a 24-hour a day, 7-day a week, and it might even be more than that. And I know there's not that many more hours, 4 days in a week, but like you're always on. You're always on. You never can go off, right? And you have wins and you have losses. You have struggles and struggles and struggles, and you have endorphins and high gains, So it's a real big roller coaster ride. But what I was going to say with the platform is, again, once you build like a foundation, if you will, you can then start to think about offshoots into different areas, right? And see if they'll take flight. But you don't want to get sidetracked and spread yourself too thin too fast, right? You got to have something that, you have bills. So he has to make money.
Yeah.
That's first and foremost. You had to make money.
Yeah. Yeah. Ooh. I mean, just like you were saying, like it's easy also to get sidetracked, and because you have your base, and everything else is. And you're like, what else can we do? What else can we do? But it's always so important to come back because this is what pays the bills.
Right.
And we have to. I mean,
bills are real.
Bills are real, and it's no different than I feel like in real, like our own lives. I'm constantly like, we talk about it almost every drive-in, like, oh, look at this new car, look at this, look at this house, look at this, and it's like, the mental battle I have to have every day of like, not trading in my car for a new car. It's so hard, and it's no different than the business. Like you can easily go get a nicer stuff or a bigger building or more employees, but it's like, okay, we're okay. Let's just think about it, let it simmer, rein it in, just keep doing what we're doing.
Is it discipline? Is discipline hard?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you overcome like all those outside, I'm going to call it noise, when you see the new shiny things,
well,
and you
start,
want, I want a better car, or I want a bigger house, or I need I want a house with a pool, or I want this, or I want that. How do you bring it back to?
Yeah. So one thing that probably the most in the last few years that's really changed is obviously like my family, like my wife and my kids. And, say 7 years ago when I didn't have any of those, it was easier to like, oh, I want a new car and let me save for it and see if I can afford it and do that. But now I'm like, just paid off my car, which is awesome.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Yeah, literally last month I was like, oh yes, finally.
So you didn't lease, you bought.
I bought it. Yeah. At least before it. And then I ended up buying after that one. But
what made you buy?
I could afford it. It was just, good deal. It was a used car, and I was like, okay, I can do this.
You bought used. Why didn't you buy new?
Because you lose money off the lot right away. I knew that one. Yeah,
certified.
Yeah.
What's
certified?
What do you mean?
Certified. Means the dealer covers it. If anything.
CPO.
George's favorite thing, CPO.
I love CPOs.
Yeah, who doesn't?
Yeah. So you bought a CPO.
Yeah.
You didn't buy a new car.
No, yeah.
You didn't have to worry about the depreciation.
No.
You just got it paid off, which is
Awesome.
phenomenal.
Yep.
So now what's the game?
So now is hang on to it, because we have this conversation almost every drive-in is like, oh, do I really, for the family to get a bigger car? It's like, you know what? We're good. Like, just hang on to it. And kind of what you're saying about the distractions, the big thing for me is, what do I want to spend my time doing, right? So there's things that are fun, and then, is having a new car going to make my life better? It's like, no. Right. It's cool. It's fun. But you know what it is like going out to dinner with my family, or, doing small trips, or like stuff like that. And that's where I think, or even like putting some money into the house so I can, when we're home, we do stuff with the kids, and that's what's important right now, and that's what's kind of reigned me in a little bit.
Prioritizing. So knowing your priorities.
Yeah.
Do you set goals?
I have a couple, just like hitting a certain amount in my savings or something like that, but again, I did. And I feel like over time I've slowly hit them, because now I'm like, hey, so, we have a house we can afford. We have, 2 cars, and I have a great job, and, that's what else. Everything else is just like, how do I hang on to that? That's all it is now. Now I'm just like, how do I keep it?
I think you're being pretty conservative.
With what? Just in general?
No, just talking about goals.
Oh.
Because I know you have more goals than that.
So maybe we should separate. There's the business side.
So there we go.
And then there's the personal side.
Perfect.
Personal side, I'm good. I'm like,
so personal side, you keep in check.
Oh,
You've hit everything. You're
stoked.
You're happy.
Yeah.
You have time to spend with the family.
Yeah.
You've gotten yourself into the management that you've always wanted.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Business side.
Of course, there's goals. Yeah. I mean, who doesn't want to, grow your own business, grow the business to the top as it can be? And
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
There's the fire that I know that Brian has.
Yeah, of course. No,
yeah.
That's a whole different.
The ambition,
sector.
the goals, the big picture, all those things. Yeah.
Big picture always.
Yeah. So he's basically gotten himself, as you just heard, he's gotten himself into a good place in his life, right? He has time with his family. He has the financial ability to pick and choose what he wants to do. That's important to him. He's done it smart. He's bought a used car, CPO, certified pre-owned. He's just gotten it paid off. He's going to reap the rewards from it. Just, you are now. You just paid it off. It's fantastic. Yeah. He's going to take care of it to keep it as long as he can, probably, so he can reap those rewards. Look, if you get 2-3 years out of it,
it's a lot.
So 2-3 years that you don't have to pay for anything other than tires and maintenance.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's pretty nice.
And it's a Prius, so the gas is good.
Oh, well, there you go. That's even smarter.
Yeah.
So gas mileage.
Yeah.
I don't really have much. Do you have any other, again, talking to our audience, do you have any other thoughts or goals or suggestions or ways of life that you could share, or any stories that maybe you might have looked over that you'd want to share with people?
I guess the big one, kind of going back to like the goals of the business and life and keeping them separate, but there is an intertwine a bit where my goals with the business, obviously, is just make it successful, but what does it mean? At what point is it successful, right? Do you have 15 warehouses around LA, or is it just having the one with, and in my eyes, and like my goal, I guess, is like, how do I spend the most time with my family, right? That's like, how do I get to that point?
Right.
Or, is obviously there's the business, and then there's, do you eventually buy more real estate? How do you get passive income everywhere? So I saw this great quote. It was like, you're successful when you can nap whenever you want. Right? I thought that was great.
That's awesome.
It's not about how much money you have. It's about, do you have that kind of freedom? Like, are you just like, I'm going to go, maybe not a physical nap, but like a mental nap. Like, okay, cool. Like, how do I just go, relax for a bit, or I'm going to go take a vacation, or I'm going to go, my wife's got this appointment, so I got to go back home. So, okay, cool. No problem. You're not to like deal with executives and whatnot and dealing with all that. But to me, that's kind of been my motivation, I guess, is really just, how do I just, be as comfortable as possible, while growing the business is a whole separate, get it as big as you can.
Right.
But ultimately it's just, how do you make your family the most, how do you spend the most time with them?
Right.
To me, that's just how I operate.
That's fantastic. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I think that's probably a major and main goal for most people.
Yeah.
In a certain, you get to a certain point in your life, right, where you have the hustle, single hustle, and then you get to a certain point where you're able to have a family, and then you want to figure out how you can balance that out so you can spend more time with your family. Hopefully, you've set yourself up to be able to do so, right? Because we all get one shot as we know it in life, right? And you got to make the most of it. I mean, from a goal and priority standpoint, from what I'm hearing from you, your business goals are much more aggressive at this moment than your personal goals, because as you obtain or reach your business goals, then you just know automatically that's going to filter through, like you said, intertwine with your family and in your personal living, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's exactly.
That's exactly right. I mean, that's why, Base Camp Supply Company as a rental company, then there's Base Camp Apparel, which, as I said, we wear quite often. Base Camp Accessories, the Base Camp Studios, where we shoot the show in, and these are all like offshoots of the core that pays the bills. And you can't lose or take your eye off that core, because then everything collapses, right? You got to keep the core going. And to keep that core going, it takes good people, right? It takes good people. It takes surrounding yourself with aggressive people. It takes surrounding yourself, wouldn't you say, with people that want to be better every day, right?
Yeah.
Like it's also a mindset. It's a mindset, right? Like waking up and hating your job is really tough. But waking up and
Being excited
and being excited and seeing growth potential, if you're an employee, growth potential. Maybe you don't want to take on the responsibility of owning a company, because it's a lot of responsibility. But if you make yourself the best employee possible, right, and you go that extra mile and all that stuff. See, for me, I've never really worked in a large corporate setting, right? I've worked on these large shows, as you know, and you worked on as well, but more as a freelance, like consultant, if you will, for those folks that, know what that means more. But I've always worked for small companies where you had opportunity to shine, right? Because I knew going to work every day, like here, I'm going to tell you a story, right? When I was coming up, I was working for a small production company owned by two independents, right? One of them became one of my mentors and one of the biggest people in my life. Every day I came to work, if there was nothing to do, I found something to do. And what I found to do, and you're probably going to laugh at me and people at home are going to be like, oh, you're a schmuck or whatever. Take it for what you want. If there was nothing to do, I cleaned every windowsill in our office and took everything out of the refrigerator, even if I did it the day before, and cleaned that refrigerator. Twofold. Jobs people will never do, think about, or want to do. Second, it gets you noticed. When you go the extra mile and you are noticed, you will thrive and you will go up. And guess what? That company started to grow. When that company started to grow, I got more opportunity. I stepped up. I became a manager. When I became a manager, then I became even a higher manager. Then I had employees underneath me. But as an employee, I knew going the extra mile would not only get me there, but it would help get that company there, right? And that company, we grew from doing, just a few handful projects, right, to doing like 16 major shows around the United States a year, right? So even if you're an employee, there is growth potential, right? You don't have to be self-employed. Self-employed is just that next step that some people aspire to, right? It's not for everybody, for sure. But that's just my story, right? And that's what I did as a youngster in my career, right? And it worked, and it helped the company grow. It got me what I just said, noticed, because I'll tell you, every day I clean that refrigerator, like everybody would come in, they'd be like, "You're cleaning the refrigerator again?" I'm like, "Dude, I just want to make sure it's clean for everybody." I made everything straight, like all the Cokes, all the Diet Cokes, all the Sprites, all the shelves were clean. There was no mess. Dude, that was the cleanest refrigerator in Los Angeles, California.
Oh, I'm sure.
Guaranteed.
But then, the let's call them the execs, you became, irreplaceable at that point because now they're used to the refrigerator being like this.
Uh-huh.
And what are they going to do? They're like, no, I want the kid that does what everyone else is doing plus this.
Exactly.
So if they grow, they're going to bring you with them.
So
Just because of that.
yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And that's you need to be mentally, you need to be thinking about that. Go to your office tomorrow after you watch this. Go to your office tomorrow and look around, right? And go, how can I make myself more valuable? How can I make myself more noticeable, right? How can I make myself needed? Or when I leave, it hurts because then, like Brian said, they're going to say, I want that person back.
Yeah.
I want that woman back. She was great. I want that dude back. He was great. Whatever it be, I think those are things like it's a mental thing. It's prioritizing what's important to you. It's looking for opportunities. It's looking how you can make yourself better. It's looking at, don't get down on yourself, financially. Look what Brian did. Brian had bad credit. He could have easily thrown in the towel and been like, yo, collection agents after me, like, forget it, whatever, I'm just going to get by. But no, he didn't. He called them. He asked the questions. He negotiated his college debt, right? He made the payments, probably not easy all the time, but he made the payments. He increased his credit. He took the time. He was thinking big picture. He was really thinking big picture, and it paid off. His story was amazing. He's happy. He's where he wants to be in life. And it didn't take that long. What'd you say when we started this? 12 years?
Yeah.
12 years.
Yeah.
Key was he listened, he pulled triggers, he enacted, he did the research, he asked the questions.
Yeah.
Right? Everyone at home can do that too. You absolutely can.
It's not about how much money you make, it's how you spend it, right? So it's,
right.
There's value in everything. So I don't know.
Well, that's where it started too. There's value in everything, right? Like you had said it early on, I believe, right? He said, it's not necessarily monetary, right? But it was time and freedom. And you got to look to yourself and figure out what's important to you, right? Because it doesn't have to be money. It could be you just want more time at home with your family or your friends or whatever it be. There's nothing wrong with that. Right? But don't be lazy. I say this a lot. I don't like lazy people, right? Like laziness doesn't get you anywhere, right? And it paints a bad picture for you, right? Like if people start perceiving that you're a lazy person, you're not going to get the call because there's too much competition out there, right? Wash the refrigerator, get noticed, be irreplaceable. Just look for those open doors. Comment. We like to hear from you and comment. Tell us, what have you done to make yourself irreplaceable? We'll send some shout outs. We'll have George, who's been really quiet this episode.
He'll come demo your
I'm
house.
just letting you guys flow. I mean, trust me, I've got some stuff to say, and I'll probably wait until I'm given approval. But
You're always approved.
but I'm letting it flow.
Yeah. So
I'm not.
I mean, do you have any? I don't really have any more. I mean, if we do a fast variation of it, it's went to college, graduated, played college sports, found a job, found some debt, figured out his debt, bought a condo.
Everybody finds debt at one point.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Was
my
responsible.
story's no different than anybody else's.
Yeah.
For sure. Everyone has the same story.
Well, that's why we're here. We're absolutely here.
Yeah.
We're basically talking to the, mini you that's listening and saying, look, this is how I did it. He did it.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And it's hard.
Can I share a couple thoughts about?
Yeah.
Or you had
no.
something else to say.
No, I'm good. Like I'm just rambling at this point. Like jump in. Like
No,
I just get
Come
really
on in, the
excited.
water's warm.
I'll tell you, I get really excited when we have guests.
Yeah.
Not that I don't like talking to you.
No, I get
but
it. I
Yeah,
get it.
I just
Trust me, I get it.
you don't like CPOs though.
No, I do like CPOs.
Oh, okay.
No, a couple things about Brian, more than a couple. We had worked together on some projects. Extremely organized, right? To the point where it makes me want to be better when I was here. Like even when I was labeling something or organizing something, because back to the refrigerator, I don't want to be the guy to put the soda out of line. It's like if somebody's going to set a standard, which he did, and I worked for you for, I don't know how long that was, but
George worked for Base Camp Supply in the
Yeah.
early days when we were really
Yeah,
trying to figure it out.
Yeah,
Basically working out of a garage. Yeah.
Yeah, I was lending them an extra hand and some horsepower. I didn't have a whole lot of skill, but I had
Strength.
a little bit of muscle, and I was moving things around. We could maybe share that story of when I was jammed. Yeah. I'll let you tell that story because it's traumatic to me. But anyway, back to you. So extremely organized. You're a great family guy at the top of the list, and that's important to me when I, when I know people or I'm friends with people. Super important. And the other thing is that you're extremely grateful, and I think when you position yourself, for me at least, when I'm grateful, I use that exercise with my kids on the way to school. We pick a topic, like it's the ocean. What are you grateful for about the ocean? And my son's like, you get to surf and you see dolphins, whatever. But we always pick a topic. And at the end of the day, they're actually happy when I'm taking them to school. So it's kind of like a diversion when they're all kind of like,
smart.
they're just miserable.
That's great.
So we just show them, but when I see you, you're grateful and you're like, everything's good at home. I've got an awesome wife. I've got an awesome house. I've got my cars. You're coming from a position of gratitude. And when you do that, you don't want to go out and get the next big thing. Because I do that with myself. When I'm practicing,
It's hard.
Hey, it's totally hard because you turn on the television and there's the brand new F-150.
Instagram and
I want one of those.
Yeah.
You know? And I think you've got that dialed in where you're happy at home and you're dialed in at work. And now Mike has a family and your stuff is starting to get, your priorities are starting to shift, which I've never seen. It's always been like, put my head down. How many companies can I start? How do I get to the top? I'm going to work and I'm going to outwork anybody. And Brian has that too. He's got that hustle where that's why you guys get along so well. And one of the questions was, before I get to that, bills are real. That's a t-shirt, by the way.
Bills are real. Base Camp Supply Co.
funny,
Bills are
actually.
real.
I think that's
Born
pretty funny.
born broke with Mike Hofferth. Bills are real.
Bills are real.
Born broke live. Bills are real.
Yeah. So,
Tongue twister.
and then for you, did you pick him as a mentee, or did you go to Mike and say, like, at what point did you go to Mike and say, hey,
That's a really
I
good
need some help? Because we talked about the whole, we had an episode about mentors and
We do. So
how you pick them and how the mentor goes, come here, kid.
Yeah.
And that's when, that's what I was curious about. When did he get on your radar to go, I'll start giving him some of my attention, and then you trusting in him to be, hey, I'm vulnerable, man. I'm in this position and they're jacking up my rent and I want to buy a house. Like, walk me through that if you guys don't mind. I don't know how long.
I have my.
you go ahead.
You want me to go first?
Yeah,
Okay.
you're the guest
don't
here. You go
remember.
for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You go for it.
So we were on X Factor. I was still like assistant coordinator or something like that. Show was kind of coming to an end. We were close. We weren't like that close because we were higher up, but we knew each other. And it's a small production.
Sure.
And everyone there was kind of rumors of it not coming back or whatever, which every show goes through that. And I think we had bonded before about living in Agora.
Right. Yeah.
And obviously you saw me work, and I think that helped you, right? Because, just like we talked about, we're hustlers and stuff like that. And I think you had a project with your other production company that you needed help with. And I was like, we're slow here. Let me come help you with that. And I remember it was like a shark show or something like that. And then I don't think I ever left at that point.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
I remember I went in to help with one shoot, and then I never left.
Yeah. I think there were a lot of steps for me. I think there were a lot of steps on my side. Right. I think I knew your situation pretty good.
Yeah.
Being more of an executive level,
Sure.
most of what's going on underneath you if you're good at your job.
Yeah. You need to.
And I knew what was going on. I knew you were from Agora. We did bond over Agora. Our company at the time had an office in Agora. I think most of the people, from what I could understand, had jobs or were close to moving on, and I felt like the team we had built, most of them were taken care of, right? And then again, you were at Agora. We had an office in Agora. But I think the big thing for me through the years of watching, because I watch everything, is I knew your character, right? I knew your character without having to really dig in and tell you, hey, I know your character. I knew you're a good guy. I knew your work ethic. I knew you were hungry, right? And I knew you listened. So, you know, coming to our small production company, right, to help us, that's the kind of people that I try to surround myself with, right? Because that's success to me. Like anybody that I've ever looked at or talked to, you know, Dave, my partner at Combine, or he and I talk about it all the time, you know, or even you now with Basecamp, right? It's about people's character, and it's about what they're about as a human being. Also, a little bit, to be honest, is their backstory, right? Because backstory sometimes will help define somebody, and it helps people. It gives people fire if it's in the right setting, right? That's what gave me fire. I think that's what gave you fire. Give you fire?
About what? I had a sorry. I
He wasn't
ADD.
listening.
I literally drifted off to nowhere.
My story was so compelling.
No.
George took a nap, and you know what? He's so successful he can take naps whenever he wants.
Look, I mean,
True
I have
success.
ADD 100%.
Oh, good. No.
Sorry,
I already know the answer. Did your upbringing give you fire?
Yeah.
'Cause
Oh yeah.
or did you have?
No, I had great parents. I had a great childhood, but yeah, I had some just absolute train wrecks. Like,
Right.
Just, you know, 14, 15 train car pile up.
Yeah.
And you have two choices. You just sit there and blame the world and tell everybody your sob story, or just forget about it.
But
and just move on and learn.
But that's it. Like it creates the fire for you not to like. I'm not here for a sob story. I'm not here. I'm not here to. My time is too valuable for me to put somebody in a position or in my life that's going to make it more difficult. Right. I want people that have the fire that want to better themselves. When you want to better yourself, then you're part of my team.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I want to go to the top. Right. I'm not cool with just kind of hovering and just getting by. That doesn't work for me. Like, you know, and like Brian said, getting to the top doesn't necessarily mean financially. It can mean freedom. For me, it's about financial freedom, or it's about personal freedom, because that is to the top. To the top is when you can call shots, right? I love the fact, you know, when I can give back to somebody and say, hey, you know what? Look, we're not that busy today. Go home and do whatever you want, but you're still going to get paid. Or if an employee were to call and say, hey man, I got something going on with, you know, XYZ, right? And I go, don't worry about it. We got you this week. Just go do your thing. Like, I like to be able to offer that freedom. Now, there is a point where people can take advantage of you, right? There's a fine line. Like, if people are taking advantage of you, then that's not cool, right? But at the same time, if they're putting in the extra effort, you know, working on the weekends, putting in, you know, not putting in for their overtime, you know, and they're like, don't worry about it. I love the hang. These 2 hours, don't worry about it. You know, stuff like that shows character. It shows somebody that wants to be something. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying, you know, it's you know, there's people that will nickel and dime, and I'm not saying give your time away for free. I'm not saying that by any means, but you know, there is something to be said on occasion where you're not just screwing your employer over because you're just like, oh, I'm gonna, you know, I took a lunch break today, and you know, he called me, and I'm gonna put it. You know, you gotta ride the line. People have feelings and people have emotions, and you have to pay attention, and you have to be savvy to that, right? You know. And people take notice of that too, not just cleaning the refrigerator, right? If you're somebody that just constantly feels like you got the short end of the stick and you're taken advantage of, and you just keep grinding your employer, you keep grinding, like, you're not, it's noticeable. They know what you're doing, and they know that's happening, right? They're not, you might think you're getting one over on them, but I guarantee they know what's going on. You know what I mean? So there's a balance.
Yeah. Have you, I know with just either managing people or a relationship or a contractor working in your backyard, what I found, I don't know if you guys have found this, but when I'm too nice,
Yeah.
they're going to take advantage.
There's a balance.
And if I'm an asshole, then guess what? They're going to do a poor job too. So I sit right in the middle. So if it's an employee that I'm managing, I don't treat them too nice and stroke them and tell them how great they are, because then all of a sudden I get a PTO request for a week when this person hasn't taken a vacation in years. And all of a sudden they're like, oh, my boss is really telling me how great I'm doing. And then the leash goes from, you know, one of those ones you get at Petco that just spool off to like 80 yards off, and then the dog's too far away, right? And so I try to sit right in the middle where I don't ride them too hard. I treat them good. I'm right in the middle.
Right.
And sometimes you can grind them a little bit, and sometimes, you know, you can ease off, but it's kind of like this never-ending balancing act.
Well, it's life. Life is
Yeah.
about relationships, right?
Yeah.
Whether you're in a relationship that's romantic, or you're just in a business relationship, or whatever it be, life is about relationships and how you manage those relationships. It's so important.
Yeah.
And people will say, don't burn a bridge. And I'm a firm believer in that. And Brian's heard me say it a million times. People have feelings.
Smart.
People have feelings, right? People have feelings. You have to remember that, because, you know, in this world where everything's, you know, getting more automated, you know, less and less job potential, right? So who are people going to gravitate toward and want to work with? People that can manage relationships, and people that have fire and compassion and can balance that out. And there's give and take. Like, you know, there's give and take. Like, I'm your boss, you're my employee, right? There's give and take between us, right? I'm not going to ask you.
I'm your employee?
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't know that?
I don't really?
You're not getting paid?
We're role playing.
Oh.
We're
Wow,
we're
okay.
role playing.
'Cause I don't have any
I'm your
benefits.
boss.
Zero.
I'm your boss, and you're
Okay.
my employee, right?
Okay,
There's give
sure.
and take. I'm not going to ask you to do
I want
something.
a raise.
I know. Of course, he's taking advantage, and I've already fired him.
That
I
was
want
fast.
4 weeks of PTO.
Yeah, he's done.
Yeah.
But anyway, but I'm just saying, I'm not going to ask you to do something I personally wouldn't do.
Yeah, I
right?
wouldn't do it even if you asked.
Yeah. So it's a bad role play with him, but you guys get the point. You get the point. So we're digressing. Anyway, I'm so
thought was
excited.
there.
Yeah, I'm so excited that Brian has been here to join us.
Yes, we love Brian.
I think your
Nice shirt.
Happy
story.
to be here. Yeah, there we go.
I didn't get the
Coordinated.
memo.
Oh, you were on it. You just missed it. You must have.
We were trying to match the illuminated Born Broke sign, but we're
A
little
shade
too
off.
Hunter green,
Yeah.
not illuminated.
I'm thrilled you were here. I appreciate you sharing your story.
Thanks for
you
having
know,
me.
absolutely. We'll hopefully have you back at a certain point.
Yeah.
You know, hopefully you at home can take away some things that Brian had talked about and implement them into your life. You know,
Next time your guest cancels.
do you have anything? Oh, he's got one more thing. I told you.
One more thing.
Yeah. We should call it something like the recap or something. No, one more thing about Brian.
One more thing with George Romaine.
One more thing about Brian.
OMT.
When I worked for you, because I was working for you, and I was moving a lot of heavy stuff, doing all, and when I saw what standard that you set back to that, and just the labeling of the base camp, just the tables, and how tedious that is to get it. The reason it was tedious, because this guy sets the A+ standard. So when I wasn't, you know, tagging the tables and what were we calling it when you screen them?
Oh, like spray paint them?
Yeah, we're just spray painting
With the
stencil.
decals.
Stencil.
The
With
stencils.
stencil.
Yeah.
And I was so, my hand was shaking because I
hard,
knew
yeah.
how perfect he did it. And so we were tagging all this. So the reason I'm telling this story is because he cares about his job and he cares about his work. And I think that is like the most important thing you can do, whether you're passionate about it or not. If you're hired to do something, really care about what you're doing and put, obviously, not just effort, do it to the best of your ability, because guess what? That company, you might get promoted into something that you might enjoy 10 times more than what you're currently doing. Or find, just get, like, care about your job. And that's what I learned from Brian. And that made me show up and say, if I'm not doing the things of the standard that he set, whether it's an athletic team, back to the Michael Jordan thing, you watch The Last Dance, you better have your shit together or you're going to get railroaded.
Right, right.
And that sets the standard. And when I played in college, that's what our coach used to do. Who's going to set the standard? running wind sprints. Who's going to be the fastest guy to make everybody else have to work harder?
Well, Brian knew.
That was him.
Well, at that moment, because we were in true startup mode as well, Brian knew we had to come out of the gate swinging if we had a hope to survive, right? And you know, I think that's a really good story, and that's a really good part of the startup. But a lesson to be had in that is once you're going, how do you maintain that standard? Because it's easy to fall off, right? And I'm not saying that
Especially when you get busier.
Correct.
Busier,
I'm not saying you've fallen off or anyone's fallen off, but I'm saying at home, it's exciting and easy in the beginning and to keep that impeccable standard, but it's easy to fall off as you're going. So in life, set the standard, reach the standard, and then exceed the standard, right? And when it gets hard or the fun has worn off, challenge yourself to push harder and raise it to the next level. You have to do that as an athlete. These are both athletes, and I guarantee.
Target, like when you guys first started Base Camp, no one even knew.
No.
And all of a sudden you started winning all these accounts, and everybody's like, oh, okay. Now maybe they have to do different pricing scenarios. Maybe they have to understand, like, who's this new kid on the block that's taking business, market share,
Right.
And that's like everything, and that happens, and another player comes in. But when you're coming in under the radar, even as an athlete, like, you know, a UFC champion, when they get to become champion, guess what? Now you have to defend the belt.
Well,
harder.
Very difficult.
Well,
you're on your target.
On that note, though, I will say, because I'll step in here, right? We started that way. I will tell you, from 20 plus years in the business industry that this business actually goes into, even I had rose-colored glasses, because what will happen is all your friends and all your contacts, right, that you think are going to give you the work are still going to second guess how real you are and not give you work until you're proven. So when we went into that, even with an impeccable plan and impeccable stuff and new stuff, there were so many accounts I thought we would get, and we never got them. And it wasn't until we built a foundation of that we were real and this is what we were really going to do.
Climb a little bit.
That we started getting these bigger accounts that we wanted. Just because 20 plus years with these people, and I thought it would be not a walk in the park, but I thought it would be way easier than it was. And it wasn't. I had phone calls that were so awkward with people that I thought we would have been a shoe-in or we would have got a chance. Nope, nothing.
Ooh.
That's business. And that's something mentally that we'll talk about, failing and overcoming. Not that we failed, but discouraging situations that get you down, and then you have to rise to the occasion to overcome them. And that's part of business. That's part of life. That's part of all of it.
Yeah.
So
there you go. Ooh, what an ending. There you go.
All right. Well, I think that's it.
Yeah.
You want the honors?
That's it. Or I mean, do we want? Can Brian
You good?
close it?
I'm good. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Go ahead. You close them up.
Thanks for having Brian.
Yeah. Thank you, Brian.
Or thanks.
Next
for
time I
us
need
for
an
having him.
ego boost.
That's
just
a
come
wrap,
here. It's
dude.
great.
Well, that's Born Broke, and that is a great interview with Brian Dean Gross. That's just powerful. And
You say it is.
Born Broke with Mike Hofferth. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. And that's a wrap.